That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. So, Jim, I haven't talked election at all today. So let's go ahead and start with Projet Montreal. What's going on here?
Oh, blank slate. How lucky can you get? Listen, there's a lot to not talk about. And in fact, today, Luc Ravelin, who's the mayoral candidate for Projet Montreal, announced a public transit policy that involves, actually, it's a bold, innovative new program called the Réseau Express bus. And what it is they're going to take the whole idea of a metro, which runs relatively regularly and relatively quickly and without interruption. They're going to take that, Aaron, they're going to transpose it to the surface. And thanks to such technological marvels as synchronized traffic lights and reserve lanes, you're going to see these things just pelting like crazy down Park, Sherbrooke, Henri Bourassa, Saint Michel, Côte St. Catherine, you name it, the major thoroughfare. You're going to have this special. I can't believe it's not a metro train. In fact, it's a bus zipping along like crazy. Here's the problem I have with this, though. I have so many questions when I saw this. The first thing I'm looking at this, I'm trying to find, well, what's the technological gizmo that they're going to use that they didn't have? That only makes this possible now. And in fact, it isn't there. All these things have been available, certainly for the past 8 years that they've been in power. So my big question to Monsieur Ravelin and company is, why are you doing this now? I know there's an election on, but why are you doing this now? And secondly, unless you turn around and say, we have made sure that construction is under control, we have made sure the traffic is under control, what makes you so damn sure that your buses are going to run, even though, we have a reserve lane, which counts for diddly squat on the island of Montreal. And, just in terms of the regular road chaos, it just struck me as being rather unusual that this would be kind of it's almost, Aaron, as if they're writing these things 500 miles away, and they're telegraphing them to the head office in Montreal and saying, hey, try this one out for size. And the other thing is the last paragraph of this announcement today, which I found particularly daunting. Given as well the fact that we just heard now, it looks like the drivers might be going on strike.
Yeah.
It turns out, they're probably saying, we have reduced, they've eliminated fares for 65 and over on the island of Montreal, and students enjoy reduced fares. Kids under 11, it's free, and they want to extend reduced fares even further to the people of Montreal who are, who are low income, which is fine on paper. And maybe this is as far as it's going to get because, Aaron, they got no money. They have no money. Quebec says, no, you don't understand. We have no money for you. When Geneviève Guilbeault was the transport minister, about the only time she was being cheered in that job is when she turned around and told all the transit authorities, get your act together, because we are not this money pump that we just give to you and all of a sudden the money disappears and you want more, which is exactly what has been happening. And I would respectfully submit that any commuter, any Montreal area commuter who is listening to me right now, by and large, is saying, I am not getting bang for my buck at all. And certainly any motorist who's being shaken down in terms of registration fees and gas taxes and so on for public transit is turning around going, where's my money going? Because it sure as hell ain't going to filling buses and metros and reducing traffic. So, yeah, it is an absolute unmitigated disaster. And I find it odd, unless this is really just like pro forma. Can you imagine that's what we've come to, Aaron? That candidates are just saying whatever pops into their head about public transit because they know deep down inside there isn't a single gosh darn thing they can do about it.
I will point out, my first question would have been, where are we getting the money from? To your point, Jim, the STM bleeds money. The provincial government has made no secret about the fact that they're not going to keep kicking in, even though they're supposed to. So it's all well and good, right, as a theory to say, well, we'll have these buses, they'll be running every 15 minutes. How are we going to afford that? Where's that money coming from?
Exactly. This is it. You cannot. There was a time, I guess, in the 80s and 90s, where people, it's possible. Yeah, we could do this, and it would be marvelous, and whatever. And now we're seeing that not only is public transit in deep trouble, and if it was private, it would have sunk beneath the waves years ago. But the fact is, and it's not this cliche. Oh no, there's no more. There's literally no more money. There's no more money for public transit in Quebec. And the idea that we're going to expand it, because we're going to reduce our no, you're not going to be reducing greenhouse gas or anything. The only thing you're going to be reducing is the amount of money in people's wallets, and people are fed up with it. They're not, and you know, as I say, if they were getting bang for the buck, if we could turn around and say, man, oh man, you know, they're coming from around the world to see how they do public transit in Montreal, it'd be one thing. But guess what? They're not, and there's a reason for that, because it really has deteriorated to such an extent. And you've had the conversation on the show where people come up and say, you know what, I was doing it, I can't rely on it. My God, look at the REM, for God's sakes. I mean, how many people, you know, really turn their lives around to use that service and have been so bushwhacked so many times, and now they're going to expand it. Good luck. I really am going to be interested to see what the passenger levels are. The ridership is going to be on that thing once it's expanded, given its reliability factor.
By the way, it's interesting to note, I was speaking about this with another mayoral candidate, Jean-François Cacou, who's running, of course, for Future Montreal, right? When I brought this up, he told me they stole, referring to Ensemble Montreal, they stole this plan from them. This idea of this 50-minute bus, the Rev Network, et cetera, that was their plan. So I'm just saying.
15-minute. You know, first of all, no one's got the copyright on 15-minute cities. That's a concept. It's like, you know, TOD, transit-oriented development. You know, the idea that everything is 15 minutes away. And we didn't get to that. I'm glad you raised that, Aaron, because I forgot to mention the 15-minute waterfront promise from Projet Montreal. Right? No matter where you are, you're going to be 15 minutes away, apparently, from the riverfront. And there's some people from Pierrefonds saying, buddy, there's times I've been a lot closer than 15 minutes to the riverfront. But anyway, I digress.
Listen, the other part of this, I guess, that ties into the story, we're talking about the Projet plan here. Yesterday we talked about the idea of pedestrianizing Old Montreal, and I said to you, they seem to be losing the focus here, but okay, that's not to be so. Maybe that's not surprising coming from Projet. But the other issue and again, we're only, 3 weeks away now, right? Mm-hmm. And you point out the election indifference, by the way, is not limited here. So what are we talking about?
We're talking about Edmonton, where the election indifference is 41%. We're talking about Calgary, where the election indifference is about 34%. We're talking about Quebec City, where the election indifference at the moment is about 27%, but that's a 6-point drop over the past 3 weeks, and that's only because there's been a lot of cut and thrust. And I think there's like 6 candidates up there, and they're going at it hammer and tong. But I got to tell you, there was a time, you know, people would say, well, maybe that's crazy talk, Manny, you shouldn't say that. Listen, remember what happened with school board elections and how the government used it as a pretext to say, listen, nobody's coming out. We're not going to spend millions on this, because they could probably turn around. First of all, municipalities, we know that. Those of our listeners who remember those golden days of one island, one city, and demergers and mergers, we discovered in court that municipalities exist at the pleasure of the province. So the province could probably turn around and say, listen, if you don't have a justifiable reason here to have a city council, we could appoint an administrative council or an agency or whatever just to oversee it. And, keep it at arm's length and really cut the overhead. And I'll bet you at this point, with our 105-member council, whatever the hell it is, people would say, you know what, that maybe is not such a bad idea. But with these numbers here, it's going to be very, very difficult to argue in favor of municipal democracy. And it's clear this is not a made-in-Montreal issue, Aaron. I mean, as I say, these cities are pretty well far removed from each other, and yet we're seeing that same indifference. And I really wonder whether down the road, city dwellers are going to pay that price, because let's face it, we keep saying it, maybe people haven't figured it out yet. When it comes to your city council, they're the ones who really have the most direct day-to-day effect on your lives. Their decisions, not Quebec or not, Ottawa. It's your local town hall.
By the way, as I hear you go through those numbers, I realize, by the way, we are the highest. We're still at the top of the list, even though other cities are the same. I may have asked you this yesterday, but I'll ask again, given that we're talking about this indifference, if you had to take a guess, why do you think that is the case? Is it about the candidates, or is it about, municipal elections in general? Why?
I'm going to sound goofy on this, and I mentioned this to you before, but I'll say it again. I really think that if you want to win an election, especially at the municipal level, you have got to give people something to believe in. You've got to believe yourself in the product. In this case, the product is Montreal, and it's not some vague abstract. It's not let's go back to 50 years and the Olympic Games and Expos. It's what Montreal is going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. Right now, the forecast is very, very dark. And as of yet, I have yet to hear any candidate turn around and say, listen, this is why you should have hope for your city. This is why you should believe in your city. Not turning around addressing social injustice are not turning around and saying, it's not our fault, it's the previous administration, and not turning around and saying, well, the infrastructure was ignored for so many years, that's why it keeps exploding. People don't want excuses. They understand that things aren't working, but for God's sake, someone out there should at least give the electorate, take the time, give the electorate a reason to hope, a reason to vote for you, a reason to vote for their future, and not to vote for some policy that a guy like me can come on the radio and skewer.
Fair enough. I hope someone's listening. Can I ask you one last thing? This is going to be my question when we come back. I'm going to make you prime minister for just a second and try to figure out what to do with this deal with China, right? Where we give up our tariffs on their cars, they give up tariffs on canola, and Canadians benefit. I say Canadians, those who would want to buy cars will benefit because those cars will be roughly half as expensive, those Chinese EVs, as what you buy now. How do you square that circle when you're dealing with China? You got, on the one hand, you have people in the auto sector who are like, you're going to kill the industry, but on the other hand, you got farmers in Manitoba and in Saskatchewan saying, hey, we're losing millions because of this. What do you do here?
Well, the factor, as it always is, I'm sorry to say, is Trump, and Trump's head would explode. But before they put the pieces back together, he probably launched an invasion of Canada. The simple fact of the matter is the reason Justin Trudeau slapped those 100% tariffs on Chinese EVs was to please Donald Trump. I don't care what anyone says. That was the reality. And the retaliation was to go after our canola oil. Now, to be fair, our issues with canola oil and China predate Donald Trump by at least a decade. But the fact of the matter is the reason why we are not doing this is that we don't want to, how can I put it, antagonize our the great orange leader to the south, because believe me, whatever China can do to us, he's a lot closer, can do it a lot more effectively, and he probably will anyway, Aaron, but as far as I know, that is what is holding us back from doing this.
Worry about U.S. reaction. All right, James Mennie, thank you, Jim.
The biggest songs in the world. You've heard them countless times. Now, learn the details of how they came to be. Join Ruby Carr for Encore, the stories behind the songs you love. New interviews and newly unearthed archive footage make for a fascinating weekly deep dive. Stream Encore, the stories behind the songs you love on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.